The war was lost until the princess took command. Now its streets were littered with rubble, its gates broken, and its people scattered or hiding in fear. The alien fleets had moved with terrifying efficiency, crushing human outposts one after another. No one had expected them to strike this quickly, and the devastation left the remaining defenders reeling. In the heart of the palace, high above the chaos, Princess Liara stood before the vast observation deck windows. She did not wear armor, nor did she hold a weapon. Her robes were simple, flowing, and unmarred by the dust and smoke that filled the lower city. Her dark hair framed a face that carried both the weight of her people's suffering and the fire of a determination few could understand. She watched the flames, the fleeing citizens, and the crumbling walls. Each sight tore at her heart, but she knew that mourning would not save anyone. Advisors crowded the room, whispering frantically, their faces pale with fear. General Morven, the last surviving commander of Urindor's fleet, paced near the windows. "Your Highness," he said, voice tight with tension, "the council has decided. We must surrender. We cannot hold the city any longer. We must accept their terms." Liara did not turn to face him immediately. She traced the paths of smoke rising from the city. "Surrender," she said quietly, almost to herself. Then louder, so everyone could hear, "and leave my people to die, to bow to aliens who have no understanding of what we are." Morven hesitated, then shrugged. "It is not a matter of pride, Princess. We are outnumbered, outgunned, and surrounded. Resistance will only mean complete destruction." Liara turned to face him, her eyes sharp and unwavering. "And what if there is another way?" she asked. The room fell silent. None dared speak. She could feel the fear in the air, thick and heavy. "We have survivors, ships, soldiers, scientists, civilians. We can regroup, we can fight back. We have not yet lost because we have not yet tried. Do you understand?" The council murmured among themselves. Fear had made them cautious, but Liara's words sparked something in their hearts, something long buried beneath despair. "You don't understand, Princess," another advisor, Elder Thane, said. "Even if we escape, the aliens will hunt us down. They are not like humans. They will not stop." Liara's gaze did not waver. "And yet, they have not yet considered what humans are capable of when they are cornered. They have not seen our ingenuity, our unpredictability. They think of us as weak, as simple. But they have never faced a people who refuse to surrender." For a long moment, the only sound was the distant roar of explosions. Then Morven nodded slowly. "If anyone can pull it off, Your Highness, it is you. But you must understand the burden will fall entirely on your shoulders. This is no longer a ceremonial role. You will command fleets, armies, and the hopes of an entire species." Liara's jaw tightened. "I understand, and I will not fail." The council hesitated, then slowly began to agree. Orders were given, maps spread across tables, and plans were drawn in hurried strokes. Liara studied them all with an intensity that made seasoned generals nervous. They tried to offer conventional strategies, but she rejected each one. The humans had been beaten because they followed rules, followed doctrine, and allowed fear to dictate their actions. That approach would not win the war. Instead, she devised plans that were unconventional. Evacuations would be hidden under smoke and light interference. Civilian ships would be repurposed into war vessels. Engineers and scientists would be given free rein to invent weapons on the fly. Soldiers would be trained not just to fight but to think creatively, to surprise their enemy in ways they could not anticipate. While the council debated, Liara walked to the communication terminal. She sent messages to the scattered human colonies, urging them to join her at a secret location within an asteroid belt far from the front lines. "We are not defeated," she wrote. "Gather what you can, bring your ships, your people, your courage. We will rebuild. We will fight back." Hours passed, and outside the city continued to burn. Alien dropships tore through streets, firing beams that melted metal and shattered walls. Civilians ran for cover, screaming and crying. Soldiers held their positions as long as they could, falling one by one. The losses were devastating, but Liara refused to falter. She moved through the command center, checking reports, giving orders, and offering reassurance. Her calmness was a shield for those around her. Late into the night, the first human survivors began arriving at the asteroid belt rendezvous point. Ships that had escaped ambushes or fought their way out of besieged worlds docked alongside one another. Liara welcomed them personally, listening to their accounts of the battles, of the losses, and of the alien cruelty. She did not flinch. Instead, she thanked them, praised their bravery, and reminded them that they were still alive, a chance that many had thought impossible. In the quiet moments, Liara studied the stars beyond the asteroid belt. Each point of light reminded her of human colonies, some lost, some hiding, all waiting for a leader to guide them. She realized the true weight of her role. Not just to win a battle or even the war, but to reignite hope in a galaxy that had almost forgotten what humans were capable of. Morven approached her, hesitating. "Your Highness, we have the survivors, but the alien fleets are not far behind. They will search the belt, and if they find us, it will be over. Do you have a plan?" Liara's eyes sparkled with determination. "We will not let them find us in the ways they expect. We will scatter, we will hide, and we will strike when they least expect it. The galaxy has seen what they believe is the end of humanity. It is not. This is only the beginning." The following days were a blur of preparation. Humans who had once been civilians became engineers, pilots, and soldiers under Liara's guidance. Ships were repaired and armed, modified with traps and hidden weapons. Communication lines were re-established, and scouts sent out to monitor alien movements. Every small victory, a repaired engine, a successful escape, a minor ambush, bolstered the morale of humans who had been on the brink of despair. Liara spent nights studying alien tactics, analyzing their weaknesses, and testing new strategies with her officers. She encouraged creativity and rewarded ingenuity. When a young technician suggested using the asteroid belt itself as a shield, diverting magnetic storms to confuse alien sensors, she praised the idea and ordered immediate implementation. Each human mind contributed in ways the aliens could not predict. Despite the tension, there were moments of quiet and reflection. Liara would often walk among her people, listening to their stories, their losses, and their fears. She comforted those who had lost family, encouraged those who had lost hope, and reminded them all that humanity's strength lay not just in weapons or fleets, but in their spirit, their will to survive, and their refusal to be broken. On the 10th day, scouts reported the approach of the first alien fleet toward the asteroid belt. Panic rippled through the human ranks, but Liara remained calm. "They think they will catch us unprepared," she said. "Let them. We will show them why humans are not to be underestimated. They have seen defeat in our eyes, and they have assumed it is ours to accept. They are wrong." The fleet's arrival was terrifying. Alien ships, far larger and more numerous than anything humans had ever faced, moved in tight formations, scanning for hidden vessels. But Liara's plan had been meticulous. Human ships, hidden in the shadow of massive asteroids, waited silently. Electronic interference, magnetic anomalies, and decoy signals masked their presence. When the aliens moved too close, humans struck. Small squads of ships emerged from the shadows, attacking vulnerable points and retreating before the aliens could respond. It was a dangerous dance, a test of nerve and skill. Humans lost ships, yes, but each sacrifice was measured, strategic, and part of a larger plan. The aliens, confident in their superiority, could not anticipate the unconventional tactics that humans had crafted in desperation. Liara watched every maneuver from the command deck, her hands steady on the controls, issuing orders with precision and calm authority. Her voice carried across the fleet, a beacon of leadership in the chaos. "Hold your positions. Strike when ready." Remember, we fight not just for survival, but to remind the galaxy that humans cannot be crushed so easily. As the first battle ended, the alien fleet retreated, confused and frustrated. Humans cheered, their spirits lifted not just by victory, but by the realization that they could fight, even against overwhelming odds. Liara allowed herself a brief smile, knowing that the road ahead was still perilous. The war was far from over, but humanity had taken its first step toward reclaiming its destiny. In the quiet after the battle, Liara looked out at the stars once more. She knew this was only the beginning, that the coming days would test her resolve and the ingenuity of her people like never before. But for the first time in years, there was hope. And with hope, she believed, anything was possible. Humans had been cornered, underestimated, and almost destroyed. Yet in that corner, they had found something stronger than any fleet, weapon, or shield. They had found themselves. And with Princess Liara at the helm, they were ready to show the galaxy what humanity could do. The asteroid belt was alive with movement. Ships of every shape and size weaved between the massive rocks, their engines glowing softly in the darkness. Liara walked among her fleet, inspecting each vessel, speaking to pilots, engineers, and soldiers alike. Fear was still present, but it had been replaced with determination. The humans who had survived the initial onslaught were no longer simply running from destruction. They were learning to fight back, and they were beginning to believe in themselves again. Liara had spent days studying alien tactics. She had pored over every report, every intercepted transmission, and every battle analysis she could find. The aliens were organized, powerful, and relentless, but they were predictable. They relied on superior numbers, advanced weapons, and an assumption that humans would always respond in predictable ways. Liara intended to prove them wrong. She called a meeting in the largest command ship, surrounded by her officers. Holographic maps of the galaxy floated in the air, showing the positions of colonies, fleets, and enemy movements. "The aliens believe they have broken us," she said, her voice calm but firm. "They think we are weak, that our fleets are scattered and hopeless. They believe we have no plan. They are wrong. We will show them that humans are never so easily defeated." Morven, standing beside her, nodded. "We have the survivors from 5 colonies. Their ships are repaired, weapons are ready, but we are still vastly outnumbered. Any direct engagement could be catastrophic." Liara's eyes scanned the fleet, lingering on each officer. "We will not meet them head-on. We will strike where they are weakest, where they least expect it. We will use the asteroid belt to our advantage. Every ship, every pilot, every soldier will be part of a strategy that is as unpredictable as it is deadly. Humans are clever. Humans are adaptable. Humans survive." The officers exchanged glances. Some were skeptical, some fearful, but all were intrigued. Liara's confidence was infectious. Over the next several days, the fleet worked tirelessly. Pilots trained for ambushes and evasive maneuvers. Engineers modified cargo vessels to carry hidden weapons and cloaking devices. Scientists experimented with energy fields and electromagnetic pulses that could disrupt alien sensors. Civilians with knowledge in engineering, navigation, and even art were recruited to help design decoys and diversions. Liara encouraged creativity at every level. There were no mistakes, only ideas to refine, and her leadership turned desperation into innovation. One evening, Liara visited the hangar where the youngest pilots trained. Many of them were barely adults, their hands trembling as they gripped the controls of their ships. "Do you think you can face the aliens?" she asked softly. A boy barely 16 nodded, his eyes wide. "I have to, we all have to." Liara placed a hand on his shoulder. "Good. Remember, it is not just skill that wins a battle. It is courage. It is creativity. Trust yourself. Trust your instincts, and remember you are not alone. We fight together." As the fleet prepared for its first major counterattack, scouts reported the approach of a small alien patrol. The aliens had assumed that humans were still hiding, broken, and fearful. They were wrong. Liara's fleet waited in the shadows, using the massive asteroids as cover. Small groups of ships emerged from different directions, creating the illusion of multiple fleets appearing simultaneously. Alien sensors picked up movement and concentrated their fire, but it was all misdirection. Humans struck, targeting weak points and retreating before the aliens could respond effectively. The first engagement was chaotic. Explosions lit the darkness, and the hum of engines filled the void. But humans were not afraid. Each strike was precise, calculated, and unexpected. The aliens had underestimated the humans' willingness to adapt and innovate. Each ship that survived returned with vital data, allowing Liara to refine future strategies. After the skirmish, Liara convened her officers again. "See what they expected," she said, pointing to the data. "They thought we would hide or flee. Instead, we struck, retreated, and struck again. This is how we fight. This is how we survive." Morven frowned slightly. "But Princess, even with our successes, they are still stronger in numbers. Eventually, we will have to face a fleet that outmatches us entirely." Liara smiled faintly. "Then we will continue to be unpredictable. Humans are not defined by numbers. We are defined by ingenuity, by spirit, by determination. They may have more ships, but we have what they cannot anticipate. That will be our advantage." The human fleet began to grow more confident. Pilots who had once been terrified now executed complex maneuvers with precision. Engineers who had once doubted their own abilities now created weapons and defenses that turned ordinary ships into deadly tools. Civilians who had been trapped by fear now contributed to tactics, strategies, and solutions that no general could have predicted. Liara had turned despair into purpose, and the human spirit burned brighter than it ever had before. One day, a young engineer named Kale presented an idea to Liara. "We could use the belt's magnetic storms to disrupt alien sensors. We could create false readings, lead them into traps, and even damage their engines." Liara's eyes lit up. "Do it, and think bigger. What else can we manipulate? What else can we turn into a weapon?" Kale and his team worked tirelessly, and within days the humans had crafted a new type of warfare. They were no longer reacting to the aliens. They were dictating the battle. Ambushes became more sophisticated. Decoys lured alien ships into asteroid clusters where they became trapped or damaged. Human ingenuity allowed smaller forces to inflict damage far beyond what their size should have permitted. The aliens grew frustrated. Their patrols returned with reports of strange anomalies, unexpected attacks, and losses they could not explain. They began to question the competence of the humans, unaware that their underestimation had been their greatest mistake. Liara, however, knew that this was only the beginning. The aliens were organized, ruthless, and adaptable. They would soon recognize the humans' unpredictability and attempt to counter it. Preparation, creativity, and vigilance had to continue. Despite the constant stress, Liara also understood the importance of morale. She walked among the fleet, listening to stories of bravery, comforting those who had lost loved ones and celebrating victories, no matter how small. She inspired not through fear or authority but through presence and example. Humans fought because she showed them it was worth fighting. One night, as she stood on the observation deck of the command ship, she spoke to Morven in private. "Do you know why they think humans are weak?" she asked. Morven shook his head. "Because they have never faced us in a situation where we had nothing to lose," Liara smiled faintly. "Because they cannot understand what it is to be human. They do not understand our stubbornness, our creativity, our ability to survive against impossible odds. That is what makes us strong. That is why we will endure." Her words were not idle. Within days, the humans executed a major operation against an alien supply convoy. Using the asteroid belt's irregular formations, they masked their approach. Small teams attacked from multiple angles, disabling communications and engines and capturing critical supplies. The aliens were caught off guard. Their losses were not just material. They began to lose confidence in their ability to predict and control the humans. After the victory, Liara addressed the fleet. Today, we showed that we are more than survivors. We are warriors, thinkers, and innovators. We are humanity. And no matter how powerful our enemies believe they will never understand the strength that comes from refusing to give up. Even Morven, hardened by decades of warfare, could not hide his awe. "Princess," he said, "you have transformed our people. They no longer fight because they are told to. They fight because they believe in themselves and because they believe in you." Liara shook her head. "They believe in themselves because they have seen what they are capable of. I am only the one who helped them see it." Days turned into weeks. The humans continued to strike with precision, using intelligence, innovation, and bold tactics. Each engagement strengthened their confidence and weakened the aliens' perception of control. Liara's fleet grew bolder, striking deeper into occupied territory, gathering supplies and rescuing survivors. With each success, humanity's legend began to spread across the stars. Yet, Liara remained vigilant. She knew the aliens would adapt, and that the coming battles would test every ounce of human ingenuity and courage. She studied their responses, refined her tactics, and prepared her fleet for what was to come. The humans had taken the first steps in reclaiming their destiny, but the war was far from over. As she looked out at the stars from the command ship, Liara felt a deep sense of determination. Humanity had survived the worst, had adapted, and had struck back when all seemed lost. They were no longer a cornered species. They were alive, resilient, and ready to challenge the galaxy. The aliens had expected surrender. They had expected fear. They had expected weakness. Instead, they had found a people who would fight with intelligence, creativity, and an unbreakable spirit. And at the heart of that resistance was a princess who refused to bow, a leader who refused to accept defeat, and a people who refused to die quietly. The war had shifted, and humanity was beginning to show the galaxy why they should never be underestimated. The human fleet had grown bolder with every engagement. They no longer merely defended. They struck deep into alien territory, turning the tide in ways no one had thought possible. From the hidden base in the asteroid belt, Princess Liara directed each operation with precision. She had learned the aliens' patterns, predicted their responses, and developed strategies that used humanity's ingenuity as a weapon. But the aliens were not blind. They were calculating, relentless, and their anger at repeated failures grew with each encounter. Reports reached Liara that the enemy was massing a massive fleet in the Vera system, a strategic point humans had avoided in the past. Intelligence suggested it was not just a defensive fleet, but a trap, designed to lure humans into a decisive battle they could not survive. Liara stood on the command deck, staring at the holographic map showing the Vera system. "They want us to believe we are being given a choice," she said quietly to Morven, who stood at her side. "They want us to rush in to fight on their terms. They are confident we will fail." "But we do not fight on their terms, we fight on ours." Morven nodded slowly. "Your Highness, even with our tactics, this is the largest fleet they have deployed. A frontal assault would be suicide." Liara's eyes sparkled. "Then we will not assault, we will infiltrate. We will strike at their weak points, divide their forces, and make them fight a battle they cannot win." The preparations were meticulous. Liara split the human fleet into multiple divisions, each with a specific task. One group would act as a decoy, drawing enemy ships toward an asteroid cluster where electromagnetic traps waited. Another group would target supply lines, crippling the fleet's ability to sustain itself. A third division, composed of the fastest and most skilled pilots, would move deep behind enemy lines, aiming for the heart of the alien command. Pilots, Engineers and soldiers were briefed with careful detail. The operation required absolute precision, trust, and courage. There was no room for error, yet Liara infused them with confidence. "Remember," she told them, "we fight because we must and because we can. Our strength is not in numbers or size, but in creativity, speed, and determination. We have survived because we think differently. That is why we will win." The fleet moved into position over the course of several days, remaining hidden in the shadows of asteroids and debris. Scouts reported alien movements, transmissions were monitored, and every possible outcome was considered. The humans had learned to strike before the aliens could react, and they planned to use that advantage to its fullest. When the first decoy ships moved into position, the aliens immediately noticed. They had underestimated the humans before, but the audacity of this maneuver caught them off guard. They dispatched several squadrons to intercept the apparent threat, leaving their main fleet vulnerable to the hidden human divisions. Liara watched from the command deck, issuing orders with calm precision. "Activate the traps," she said. The engineers had modified the asteroid cluster to generate intense magnetic fields and electromagnetic pulses, confusing the alien sensors and damaging their engines. Ships that had seemed invincible were suddenly slowed, exposed, and vulnerable. The first wave of human fighters struck. They moved with speed and coordination that the aliens could not predict. Smaller vessels darted in and out, targeting weak points and retreating before counterattacks could reach them. Explosions lit the darkness of space, the hum of engines filling the void. For the first time, the aliens realized that humans were not just clever, they were terrifyingly adaptable. Meanwhile, the strike team led by Liara herself moved silently toward the heart of the alien command. These ships were smaller, faster, and equipped with stealth technology developed over weeks of relentless work. Liara's mind was focused, analyzing enemy positions, predicting patrols, and issuing real-time orders. Every move had to be perfect. Every second counted. The team navigated asteroid fields, avoiding detection as they approached the massive flagship at the center of the fleet. Alien patrols scanned relentlessly, but human ingenuity once again proved decisive. Using electromagnetic pulses to mask their approach and feign decoys to divert attention, the human strike team infiltrated the enemy formation with unprecedented precision. Inside the flagship, alien commanders were bewildered. Systems began to fail inexplicably, weapons shut down, and communication lines flickered with interference. Panic began to spread. They had never experienced such a coordinated, intelligent assault from a species they considered inferior. Liara's ship struck at the core systems, disabling critical weapons and creating chaos among the alien ranks. Her pilots executed maneuvers that no simulator could predict, exploiting weaknesses in the fleet's formation. Every ship in the human fleet played a role, working in harmony under her direction. Back in the main battlefield, the decoy group continued to engage the bulk of the alien fleet, using hit-and-run tactics to keep the enemy distracted. Supplies were sabotaged, reinforcements intercepted, and alien morale began to crumble. The humans had turned what should have been a suicide mission into a strategic masterpiece. Morven watched in awe. "They cannot comprehend what we are doing," he said. "They are intelligent, but they are rigid. They cannot adapt like we can. Your strategy is brilliant, Princess." Liara shook her head. "It is not my brilliance. It is humanity's. We survive because we adapt. We survive because we refuse to surrender. Every person in this fleet contributes to our victory. I only help them see what they are capable of." The battle raged for hours, each moment filled with tension. Ships maneuvered through narrow asteroid passages, laser fire flashed through the darkness, and explosions illuminated the void. Human ingenuity was on full display, every tactic designed to exploit the aliens' assumptions and rigidity. At one critical moment, an alien warship attempted a direct assault on the strike team. Liara remained calm, issuing orders with precision. Split formation. Draw them into the trap. Smaller ships darted toward the enemy, weaving through magnetic interference fields. The alien vessel followed, unaware that it was being led into a narrow asteroid corridor filled with traps. The ship was disabled, and the remaining alien forces retreated in confusion. Victory came at a cost. Several human ships were lost, and brave pilots gave their lives to ensure the success of the operation. Liara mourned them privately, honoring their courage and sacrifice. Yet she knew that every loss had strengthened humanity's resolve and taught them lessons that would save countless others in future battles. When the dust settled, the human fleet had not only survived but inflicted devastating damage on the alien forces. The flagship had been crippled, supply lines disrupted, and the aliens' confidence shattered. Reports indicated that several alien colonies were reconsidering their support, hesitant to commit to a war they could not control. Liara addressed her fleet. Today, we showed the galaxy that humans are not weak. Today, we proved that even against overwhelming odds, we can survive and fight. But our work is not done. The war is far from over. We must continue to be vigilant, continue to innovate, and continue to trust in ourselves. This victory is a step, not the end. The fleet erupted in cheers, a mixture of relief, pride, and renewed determination. Pilots who had once feared the enemy now celebrated their ability to outthink, outmaneuver, and outfight them. Engineers who had labored endlessly to create weapons and defenses felt the satisfaction of seeing their innovations succeed. Civilians who had contributed in small but crucial ways felt their courage recognized. Liara moved through the command ship, offering words of encouragement and thanks. Her presence inspired confidence, not through fear, but through shared purpose and understanding. Humans followed her not because they had to, but because they believed in her and in themselves. Even Morvan, who had seen countless battles, admitted to himself that he had never witnessed leadership like this. The princess had taken what should have been despair and transformed it into strategy, creativity, and unwavering courage. But Liara knew that the aliens would not remain passive. They would learn from their mistakes, adapt, and strike back with even greater force. The coming battles would test every skill, every innovation, and every ounce of courage that humanity possessed. The war had shifted, yes, but the struggle was far from over. As she looked out at the stars from the command deck, Liara allowed herself a brief moment of reflection. Humans had been underestimated for centuries, considered weak, expendable, and easily broken. Yet in the darkness of space, facing annihilation, they had found strength, ingenuity, and unity. They had survived, adapted, and struck back. The human spirit burned brighter than ever, and Liara knew that this was only the beginning. They had taken the first decisive steps in reclaiming their destiny, and no force in the galaxy could suppress their will. The aliens had expected fear and submission. Instead, they had encountered brilliance, courage, and a stubborn refusal to be defeated. Liara's gaze shifted toward the horizon, where distant stars shone like beacons of hope. She knew that the next phase of the war would be even more dangerous. Entire systems could be lost, and sacrifices would be inevitable. Yet she also knew that humanity had learned a vital lesson. They were never truly defeated as long as they refused to give in. The war had reached its turning point. Humans had shown the galaxy that they were clever, resilient, and dangerous in ways the aliens could never fully predict. Liara had proven that leadership was not just about command. It was about vision, inspiration, and the ability to harness the full potential of every individual. And so, humanity prepared for the battles ahead, united, innovative, and unstoppable. The aliens may have believed the war was theirs to win, but they had underestimated the greatest weapon humans possessed: the human spirit itself, guided by a princess who refused to surrender. The alien fleet had regrouped, larger and more determined than ever. Word of their previous losses had spread throughout their ranks, and their commanders were determined to crush humanity once and for all. Reports indicated that their main command station, a colossal fortress orbiting the planet Zyphera, had become the center of their operations. Its shields were nearly impenetrable, its weapons unmatched, and it was protected by squadrons of the deadliest warships humans had ever faced. Princess Liara studied the holographic projections in the command room. The alien fortress glowed ominously, surrounded by a web of protective ships. Morven, standing beside her, could feel the tension in the room. "Your Highness, even our fleet, as skilled and creative as it has become, may not survive a direct assault on that station. Their defenses are unlike anything we've seen." Liara's eyes were steady, unwavering. "We will not assault. We will infiltrate, and we will strike at the heart of their command. They rely on their technology, on their numbers, on their belief that humans are predictable. They have been proven wrong before, and they will be proven wrong again. Our strength is our mind, our courage, and our refusal to accept defeat." The humans spent days preparing the fleet. Every ship was modified for stealth, speed, or special operations. Pilots trained relentlessly for precise maneuvers. Engineers reinforced hulls and weapon systems, and scientists developed new devices designed to disable alien shields and communication systems. Civilians contributed as well, creating decoys, hacking alien transmissions, and providing real-time solutions. Liara inspired them at every step, reminding them that every skill, every idea, and every life mattered in the fight for survival. As the fleet approached Zyphera, scouts reported the alien defenses in full readiness. Patrols were active, energy shields glimmered across the command station, and massive weapons bristled from the fortress. Liara held a meeting with her top officers. "We will split into 3 divisions," she said. "Division 1 will create a diversion, drawing attention away from the station. Division 2 will infiltrate the outer defenses and disable shields and communication. Division 3, under my command, will move directly toward the heart of the fortress to strike the main weapon systems. Timing and coordination will be everything." The fleet moved with precision. The first division launched a series of attacks and feints, forcing the aliens to redirect squadrons away from the station. Explosions lit the darkness, drawing the attention of alien commanders who believed they had caught the humans in a desperate assault. Meanwhile, the second division, composed of engineers and fast attack ships, navigated through asteroid fields and debris, approaching the outer defenses undetected. Using advanced stealth technology, they bypassed patrols and deployed electromagnetic pulses that disrupted shields and cut communications. Alien sensors struggled to interpret the sudden anomalies, leaving the main fortress exposed. Liara led the third division, her ship sleek and fast, moving with silent precision toward the core of the command station. Her pilots followed her every maneuver, coordinated through real-time communications. The fleet passed through debris fields, weaving between massive satellites and energy fields. Each move was calculated, yet executed with the instinctive precision of seasoned warriors. As they neared the heart of the fortress, alien forces detected them. Warning sirens blared across the human ships and massive weapons powered up. Liara remained calm, issuing orders with clarity. "Engage evasive maneuvers, focus on weak points, strike fast and retreat if necessary. Remember, our advantage is our unpredictability." The first wave of alien fire hit, tearing through space with devastating energy. Several human ships were damaged, and alarms blared across the command deck. Liara's hands moved over the controls, issuing precise commands. Smaller vessels darted in unpredictable patterns, avoiding destruction, while missile arrays targeted key enemy turrets. Inside the fortress, the alien commanders were thrown into chaos. Systems failed inexplicably, weapons malfunctioned, and communication lines flickered. Their calculations had failed. They could not anticipate human strategies that were fluid, adaptive, and creative. Panic spread through the ranks as they realized the humans were inside their defenses. Liara directed her team with calm authority. Focus on the main weapon systems. Disable their shields and communication. We are close to victory, but we must remain vigilant. Every second counts. The human strike team infiltrated the inner chambers of the fortress. Engineers and pilots worked together to bypass security systems and deploy devices designed to overload alien circuits. Explosions shook the fortress from within, and critical weapons went offline. Alien defenses began to collapse under the relentless pressure. Meanwhile, the diversionary fleet continued to occupy the outer defenses, keeping the remaining alien ships engaged and away from the core. Pilots executed daring maneuvers, drawing fire and exploiting weaknesses in formations. Every member of the human fleet played a crucial role, from the youngest pilot to the oldest engineer. They had become more than a fleet. They were a coordinated force of ingenuity, courage, and determination. In the chaos, Liara noticed that the alien flagship, the center of command, was still operational. It was heavily armed and maneuvering to intercept her division. She made a decision that could change the course of the war. Prepare for a direct strike on the flagship. It will be risky, but it is our only chance to end this battle. Pilots and engineers acknowledged her command. The ships moved as one, weaving through the weakened defenses, dodging energy blasts and targeting critical points of the flagship. Liara's strategy was precise: hit fast, strike where the shields were weakest, and retreat if necessary. As the human fleet closed in, the alien flagship unleashed its full power. Beams of energy tore through space, obliterating smaller vessels. Yet humans adapted, dodging with skill and exploiting gaps in the enemy's attacks. Liara coordinated her team with calm intensity, predicting enemy movements and issuing orders in real time. Finally, the strike team reached the core of the flagship. Explosives and energy disruptors were deployed, sending systems into meltdown. The massive weapons array overloaded and exploded, sending shockwaves through the vessel. The flagship, once a symbol of alien dominance, began to collapse. Alien commanders struggled to maintain control, but their communications were cut and chaos reigned. Back in the outer field, the diversionary fleet seized the opportunity. Alien ships, confused and leaderless, were targeted systematically. The humans struck with precision, disabling or capturing key vessels. The aliens' morale broke completely, and many fled into open space, unwilling to fight a battle they could no longer control. Liara watched from the command deck as the fortress began to crumble. Smoke, fire, and explosions consumed the massive structure. The alien fleet's power had been shattered, their command disrupted, and their forces scattered. Humanity had achieved what seemed impossible. The human fleet regrouped after the battle, battered but victorious. Pilots and engineers celebrated their success, knowing that their creativity, courage, and perseverance had turned the tide. Even Morvan, who had doubted the feasibility of the operation, acknowledged the brilliance of Liara's leadership. Liara moved among her people, offering congratulations and words of encouragement. "We have won this battle," she said, "but the war is not over. We must continue to be vigilant, continue to innovate, and continue to trust in ourselves. Humanity has proven its strength, and we must never forget it." As the fleet departed Zyphera, they received reports from across human colonies. The victories had inspired hope. Colonies that had been on the brink of surrender were rallying, rebuilding defenses, and preparing to join the fight. Humanity's legend was spreading, reminding everyone that they were not weak, that they were clever, resilient, and unstoppable when united. Liara took a moment to reflect. The war had cost countless lives, and the losses weighed heavily on her heart. Yet she knew that every sacrifice had been necessary to ensure the survival and future of humanity. The courage of those who had fallen would be remembered, honored, and celebrated for generations. The galaxy had underestimated humans for centuries, assuming them to be fragile, predictable, and inferior. They had been proven wrong. Humans had survived annihilation, adapted, and struck back with intelligence, creativity, and unyielding determination. They had shown the galaxy that their greatest weapon was not technology alone, but their spirit, their ingenuity, and their refusal to bow to any adversary. In the weeks that followed, Liara oversaw the reconstruction of human fleets and colonies. New technologies were developed, defenses strengthened, and strategies refined. Humanity was no longer a cornered species. It was a force that could challenge any enemy, anywhere, at any time. Across the galaxy, the story of the princess who had taken command spread. Tales of her courage, intelligence, and leadership inspired generations. Humans began to understand their own potential, realizing that even in the face of overwhelming odds, they could survive, adapt, and triumph. Liara continued to lead, not just as a commander but as a symbol of hope. She reminded her people that true strength came not from weapons or numbers, but from unity, creativity, and the refusal to give up. Humanity had faced annihilation and emerged stronger, more determined, and more capable than ever before. And so, the war that had seemed lost was won, not through brute force alone, but through ingenuity, courage, and the human spirit. Liara had shown the galaxy that humans were unpredictable, unstoppable, and capable of greatness beyond imagination. The aliens had believed victory was certain, but they had underestimated a species that refused to surrender. Humans would rebuild. Humans would grow stronger, and under the guidance of Princess Liara, they would never again be underestimated. The galaxy had seen the best of humanity, and it had learned a lesson it would never forget. When humans fight, they fight with their minds, their hearts, and their unbreakable will. The war was won, and humanity had claimed its place among the stars, not as victims, but as masters of their destiny. The princess who had taken command became a legend, a reminder that even in the darkest hour, courage, intelligence, and unity could change the course of history. And for humanity, that lesson would endure forever. The war was lost until the princess took command,